Welcome to EPG Pathshala. I am Sila Tirupati. I will be talking about maritime contacts of east coast of India with Red Sea coast, Persian Gulf and Southeast Asian countries under the paper Economy History of India. You know that the ports of east coast of India played a major role, and the trade and cultural contacts of India, that is the east coast of India, the evidences we can see all along the Southeast Asian coast, Red Sea and Persian Gulf countries. And the objective of my lecture is to know that how the role of pottery, how the pottery has played a role and in the maritime trade, and how Buddhism even played a major role in the maritime trade of east coast of India, and what are the evidences, Indian evidences we get in Red Sea coast, Persian Gulf as well as Southeast Asia, and these are the evidences which give us information about our presence of Indian culture and presence of Indian mariners at these places. But before going into other details, we should know where the ports were located along the east coast of India, and what kind of ports were there. You know that ancient Indian literature mentions about the Shilpa Shastra mentions about two types of ports. One is Dronimukha, another is Patana, and Tamaralipti was a Dronimukha type of ports, and there are some sites like Calcutta Patana, Manika Patana, which were located on the seashore. So those are called ports along the seashore called Patana sites. In addition to that, we should know it that most of our ports of east coast as well as west coast of India were located in the coastal plains, sheltered bays and river deltas are in the confluences. And this shows that the mariners had the knowledge of this your wind pattern of which as well as the currents. Okay, that's what they had constructed, or they had built these ports at these locations, that is the coastal plains, sheltered bays and the river deltas. Again, according to the available literature, it is stated that the maritime contacts of east coast of India, the maritime contacts of east coast of India goes back 200 years. That is that the maritime contacts of east coast of India goes back to 800 BC, and this there is a reference to is there, but if we will look into the archaeological findings, it appears to be correct, because we should take into archaeological evidences and all those things, and all along the east coast there were a number of ports starting from West Bengal up to Tamil Nadu, and all along with these ports there were some port sites as well as the trade centers, and all along the east coast nearby to these port sites we have Buddhist settlements also. We should see the sources. What are the sources for the study of ports and maritime trade of east coast of India in particular, and India in general? There are indigenous sources like the literature, whether it is Mahabharata or whether it is your Puranas or whether it is Arthashastra or it is Panini's records. We have some evidences of maritime contacts. Similarly, the inscriptions of the most famous inscription of Mottupalli temple inscription issued by the Kakatiya rulers. We have though it is of later period, but we have very strong evidences of maritime trade as well as this shipwreck evidences. In addition to this, we have Chola period inscriptions and our Sangam period literature text. And coming to the traveler's account, either it is Huengsa's account or Fayain's account or the travelers who has visited in the later period, we have all these their information is providing good knowledge or information on the maritime activities of India as well as the east coast of India. The archaeological sources such as pottery, beads, coins, seals and sealings, they also provide information on the maritime activities. In addition to that, either it is art or the sculptural evidences on the walls of the temples, as it is known to us that the giraffe motif in the, on the walls of Konark. Okay. It shows that the mariners of Arab countries had brought the African countries, they had brought the giraffe, and which was given to the ruler of the then Orissa. Okay. And moreover, the archaeological exploration and excavation findings provide first-hand information on the maritime contacts of east coast of India with Red Sea, Persian Gulf and Southeast Asian countries. And coming to the evidences, again here we should have a look at the screen, see that there is a touchstone. That touchstone found in the southern provinces of Thailand, which is datable to 3rd century BC, and it is having a Tamil Brahmi and Tamil and Brahmi inscription, and where the name of the owner of the stone has been written. Okay, that means during 3rd century AD, some of the Tamil mariners has taken this stone for, that is that goldsmith stone that has been found in Thailand, which has been kept in a museum belonging to 3rd century AD. So it is one kind of evidence. And there is another evidence, a mariner, a Buddhist who was a mariner, and he has offered a prayer for his safe journey and in the Malaysian countries, in Malaysia, and there is a inscription. And in addition to that, the recent archaeological studies in the Socotra caves, okay, on the island of Socotra, there are a number of caves, and in those caves, we found number of Brahmi inscriptions, which are of early historical period. And these are the new findings, these are the new information on the maritime contacts of India with the Red Sea coast. Moreover, in the Southeastern countries, particularly from Indonesia, there are some inscriptions. For instance, the Telaga Batu inscription of 7th century AD mentions the ship captain and the long distance maritime trade. In addition to that, there is a word called Stapakas, who were the sculptors, who were making the, these sculptures. Those are referred in those inscription. In addition to that, there is another inscription is called Kalidi inscription, that is 10th century AD, where a number of foreigners has been mentioned. Among them, Kalingas, Dravidians, Sinhalese people are mentioned in that one. And see why Orissa and our Kalinga is mentioned in those things. Probably the cotton textile of Kalinga was one of the important item of exported to there. And moreover, that old Balinese inscriptions also mentions about Kalingas, Aryas, Dravidians, and there is a word called Banigrama. In Sanskrit, Banigrama means a trade guild. So these are the inscriptional evidences we are getting from Southeast Asia, particularly from Indonesia, which shows the maritime trade contacts with Southeast Asia and India, particularly from the east coast of India. Others, source of our studies is a traveler's account. As I told you, Megasthenes, who has traveled India in 3rd century, around early centuries of Christian era. But the most important source of information for maritime trade is the Periplus of the Erythraean Sea, which is first century, 60 to 100 AD. In that text, we do not know who was the author, but in that text, the ports of east coast and west coast of India has been referred. In addition to that, the ports of Red Sea coast is also mentioned in that one. And this is, till today, this has been considered as the basic information book for the study of maritime contacts of India with Red Sea coast and other parts of the world. Similarly, Phaya's account, Huang Sak's account also, they refer. For instance, during his return voyage, he has mentioned that it took 14 days from Tamaralipti to reach in Sri Lanka. Okay, and he has given his experience, what kind of experience he had during his voyage from Tamaralipti to Sri Lanka. And the later period travelers like Al-Masudi and Abu Hanifa Dunari, Mark Polo, Ibn Battuta, and all others, they have given their information in their accounts. And if we will go through those sources, we get lot of information about maritime contracts, about the use of winds, use of current, the information of the shipbuilding technology, use of stone anchors, so many, all the information related to maritime contracts, maritime activities, export, import are available from these travelers' account. And the other sources of our study is the archaeological findings, that is pottery, beads, coins and seals. And if we will see, particularly coming to the pottery part, in the early historical maritime trade, both on the east coast and west coast of India, the NBP, Northern Black Polished Ware, which has, earlier it was considered, the earliest date was considered as 6th century BC. Now, the recent excavations of Uttar Pradesh and Gangetic Valley as in Bihar, the date goes to 1100 BC, and so far, this NBP has been recorded 415 sites of India. And during NBP period, we can see, that is 6th century BC onwards, we can notice one thing, that there was a permanent settlement, use of coinage, and your writing system, and your use of meteorology for both and agriculture purpose and warfare. Lot of developments and information we can notice during your 6th century BC onwards. And so in the maritime trade studies, this particularly this NBP plays a major role. Moreover, this after NBP, as you know, that we have found in all along the Indian coast, and NBP has been found in the Sri Lankan coast. That means here we can say, based on the pottery findings, particularly of NBP, that we had contacts with Sri Lanka from 6th century BC onwards. Then coming to the another type of pottery is called roulated ware. Again, this is early historical pottery, and it has been found more than 100 sites on the east coast of India, particularly from the ports and Buddhist sites as well as the trade centers. And it is not only these related ware is found in east coast, it has been found in the other parts of particularly Southeast Asia and Thailand, in Malaysia and in Indonesia, as well as the Red Sea coast and Persian Gulf countries. Okay. Secondly, the other pottery is called knobbed ware, which has been for the first time was found in Sishpalgarh, Orissa. The subsequent excavations in Jaugarh also it has been referred. But during our recent explorations along the Andhra coast and Orissa coast, we have found this knobbed pottery, which is also associated with maritime trade from Kalingapatnam and Dantapura, as well as Radhanagar and other sites. And this pottery, on the back side of this pottery, we found some graffiti marks. and you can see the screen, the potteries having graffitis on their back, I mean on their this one, what is that, back side. And similarly, it is told that these graffiti marks are, started from Harappan period onwards, and it probably it could be a piece of information as a part of our maritime trade, because similar kind of graffiti marks we found both in different kind of pottery, and we do not know whether these are the potter's mark, or it symbolizes to any kind of say related to Buddhism, or it is a trade symbol or anything. We have to, more work is required on these pictograph, on these graffiti marks, then we can have better information. And another interesting aspect we have noticed in the maritime trade, see these earthenware knobbed pottery we have found on the east coast of India, most of the sites associated with related ware and Buddhist affinities. But in the Southeast Asia, particularly from Thailand, there is a place called Bontapet and Khasam Kyo, where we have found high-tin bronze knobbed vessels. Okay, but these knobbed bronze vessels we have found in even Bangladesh. Okay, but we have not found these knobbed pottery, particularly these high-tin bronze pottery in Indian context. Okay, so probably in later period these users made these high-tin bronze pottery, but in addition to this, earthenware knobbed pottery also found in your Thailand and in Vietnam also. The other, source of our information on the maritime trade is beads. Beads of both, semi-precious stone beads, glass beads, and all those things. Almost every excavations, both on the east coast and west coast, had yielded number of semi-precious stone beads, whether it is a megalithic site or whether it is a early historical site related with your trade center and port site, or it is a interior. For instance, there are some sites in western Odisha where we have found a number of semi-precious stone beads. You can have a look in the screen. Similarly, there is another, that Arikamedu was an important port on the east coast of India, particularly Tamil Nadu, and now it is in Pondicherry. There was a bead industry, and if anyone goes there for exploration, they will find micro beads. You know that those beads are so small, you cannot see them. If you can see in magnifying glasses, you can see the holes, how they had made it. It is a very, piece of this very much, surprising. We have to see how much technology was developed in the early centuries of Christian era. And it is not that these were made in India. These raw material was also going to Southeast Asia, and these finished artifacts has been found in Southeast Asia, Red Sea coast, and Persian Gulf countries, particularly these beads. And we can see during early historical period, some of the rulers of our Indian countries, particularly from Satavahana rulers of Andhra Pradesh and the Pallava rulers of Tamil Nadu, and the Salanayaka coins, those who were contemporary or later period of Satavahanas, they have issued coins with ship motifs. So that shows that the trade was flourishing so much. So in view of that, probably they have issued these ship motif coins. But for us, this is a piece of information to study the maritime context. And from these ship motifs, we can study, the structural pattern to some extent of these boats. Okay. And in addition to that, the recent excavations at Alagankulam, there on related bear pottery, we have found a Roman type of ship. And in the 7th, 8th century, in the Odisha Museum, Bhubaneswar, there is a rock, panel, okay, stone panel, where they have there are two ships have been carved, and it is showing the transportation of elephants. Okay, and there are some terracotta clay seals where we have the depiction of boats of early historical period which has been found in West Bengal. From these sources, we should know that who were the mariners. As I told you that Buddhist, probably the Buddhists were the mariners, because all along the east and west coast of India we have number of Buddhist sites. Okay, and those Buddhist sites are located along the ports and trade centers. And you can see similarly along with these trade, these Buddhist mariners had sailed. That's what we have number of Buddhist and Buddhist influence in Southeast Asia. Okay, and everywhere. I mean, either it is Indonesia or it is Malaysia or it is Vietnam, the recent archaeological studies where we have the evidences of Buddhism, the presence of Buddhism in these sites, I mean particularly in the Southeast Asian countries, shows that Buddhism has played a major role in the maritime trade of east coast of India. We can have look at these sea in the Orissa, Andhra, Tamil Nadu coast. All along the port sites we have a Buddhist settlement, and probably, as I told you, probably the Buddhists were the mariners who had traveled along with these traders and for propagation of Buddhism, as well as they were carrying their philosophy, they were carrying their ideas. Because of these regions, they could able to patronize Buddhism in Southeast Asian countries. It is not that Buddhism is found only in Southeast Asia. Even in Maldives, we are having the evidences of Buddhism in Sri Lanka. And in addition to Buddhism, we are having the evidences of Hinduism. That is, in Indonesia, you can look at this presentation that we have. You can look at the screen that we have Ganesha sculptures and Deepalakshmi and Saraswati. There are a number of Hindu, art pieces and sculptures where it shows clearly that Indian influence can be noticed on these art and architecture and sculptures of Southeast Asia. And particularly in Thailand, if you look at the screen, see in different periods of history, starting from early historical period up to later period, the evidences that is Indian pottery, Indian glass beads, Ganesh sculptures, Buddha sculptures, your Avalokiteshwar, and those soft touchstone of that Tamil merchant, and those this ship motive seals and ceilings. All those findings from Thailand suggest that India had a close maritime contacts with Thailand. Similarly, the recent archaeological studies of Vietnam has brought to light in evidences of Indian influence on Vietnam. During recent excavations, they found a Buddhist Buddha sculpture, and these two other which has been shown on the screen. These are Buddha images, Buddha sculptures made of wood. And there is another Vishnu sculpture, Vishnu's this one found in Vietnam. The study suggests that there were three routes between east coast of India to Southeast Asia, and during different periods, because the maritime trade of east coast of India based on the monsoon winds. So during northeast monsoon wind, which is known as trade winds, and the southwest monsoon is known as summer winds. So during southwest monsoon wind, the mariners were returning from Southeast Asia to India, and during northeast monsoon, the mariners were going from east coast of India to Southeast Asia. Similarly, we can see the maritime contacts of east coast of India in the Persian Gulf countries. What was happening? The mariners, particularly the Arabs, okay, they had contacts with west coast of India because Mujris and all other sites, your Bharuch, Mujris and some other sites of other ports of west coast of India, they were coming, they were taking Indian products, particularly spices, to Persian Gulf. From there on the land route, those were transported to Roman countries. But the recent archaeological studies in African coast as well as in the Persian Gulf countries, we have found rollated bear and this amphoras and Indian coins. For instance, that the African, Red Sea, Persian Gulf countries, there is a port called Korikori, that is called Susurama, where Indian coins has been found, Indian rollated bear has been found, and in one side there is a Tamil Brahmi inscription has been also found from Korikori, which shows that the Persian Gulf countries had contacts with east coast of India during early historical period. Coming again in the later period, we have torpedo jars which has been found in the Indian coast as well as more from the Persian Gulf. So this is another piece of information for us that the Persian Gulf countries had contacts with west coast as well as east coast of India. And coming back to the Red Sea coast, earlier the trade was controlled from east coast and west coast of India with the Persian Gulf. Subsequently, in 3rd century BC, little later, maritime contacts of east coast of India started with the Red Sea coast. And among the Red Sea coast ports, that Maya Hormuz and Berenike has played a major role. And in the screen, you can notice in the Maya Hormuz, during excavation, they have found, during excavation, they have found a full, they have reused the amphoras and which was served as a jetty-like kind of thing. Okay, so it shows during early historical period, the Maya Hormuz port contacts with the east coast of India as well as the west coast of India. And in addition to this one, we have Roman coins which has been recorded all along the east coast and west coast, but Roman coins were more number has been found in the east coast of India. Similarly, in addition to these Roman coins, we are having the evidences of Roman amphoras. Roman amphoras is found, in a number of sites. Even in the east coast and west coast, in the east coast, you know that Arikamedu, huge quantity of amphoras has been found. Even in Dharanikota also we have found. And in west coast Mujiris, when the ships were coming, after Mujiris they were coming to Arikamedu, and this was a Roman settlement. In addition to these things, it is not only we found Roman amphoras, Roman coins in India, even Indian findings we got along the Red Sea coast. For instance, in Berenike, we have found Indian pottery with Tamil Brahmi inscription and another pottery with spastic symbol, and our Indian semi-precious stone beads is also found in Berenike excavations. More importantly, cotton, that is cotton sail, is found in Berenike and there you can see in the screen that net beds, you know, that these to carry the artifacts, they have used these nuts which were found made of Indian cotton, and Indian thing, I mean made in India, is found in Red Sea coast. On the screen, see how the maritime trade was going on from east coast, starting from Tamaralipti to east coast of other ports of east coast, then to Mujris and Barigaja, that was Bharuch. Then they were going to Red Persian Gulf countries, and similarly from Mujris, that is Pattanam or other ports of west coast, they were going to the Red Sea coast. In summary, we can say the ports of east coast of India played a major role, and the findings of Southeast Asian countries, Persian Gulf and Red Sea coast in Indian sites. Similarly, Indian findings in Southeast Asia, Persian Gulf and Red Sea coast gives us the evidence and the information that trade was existing between all these ports, that is the ports of Red Sea coast, Persian Gulf and Southeast Asia. And it is not that trade declined after early historical period. It was going, and one port after declining, another port was coming to light, and subsequent studies will provide us more and more information on the maritime contacts of India with other ports of other parts of the world. Thank you.